Amazon bestseller. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 today by going to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala!
All right, 7 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Beautiful looking Monday. You know, Robin and I, when we're not doing the radio show, we will get our musical instruments and we will take our music around to the different nursing homes in our community. We sing for them and we play music for them, okay? And we discovered something that it's more fun if you have the songs memorized than if you have a music stand, okay? So our big challenge to ourselves was, okay, let's see if we can memorize 1 hour's worth of music, and then we can walk around. You know, we can be strolling musicians, and these people who can't even get out of the rooms, we can walk into their rooms. It'd be cool, right?
Yeah.
I was saying, oh man, this is tough. Memorizing, well, an hour's worth of music is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we saw a video of this lady named Steph Davis. And Steph wasn't memorizing music. She was climbing mountains with no ropes, no pulleys, no nothing. Just gloves and boots.
Yeah.
Well, she was wearing clothes.
You're right.
Just for the perverts out there. Just don't picture that. Just she was climbing mountains with her bare hand. Nothing.
Yeah.
If she let go, done. She's done.
Right.
Okay. And then, listen to this. She gets to the top, and she jumps off.
Yeah.
With a little, what do you call it?
A little parachute.
Like a parachute. And
Yeah.
then we get the book. It's called Learning to Fly.
Yeah.
And there's pictures in the book. She's not just jumping. She's jumping with this suit that's got wings, like Rocky the Flying Squirrel.
Right. I know,
Jumping
she's so
off
great.
of things. And then you look a little deeper. And do you remember the book by Erica Jong? Does anybody remember this book, Fear of Flying?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Remember Erica Jong made and all of us guys, you know, we were so immature. We were just looking at the sex parts. But what Erica Jong was talking about was the fear of living. She called it the fear of flying, but she was afraid to live. She was afraid to have relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Learning to Fly, Steph is doing something similar. She had, her own set of curveballs thrown her way, and Learning to Fly is just half of the story. As far as the literal translation, I mean, she really does fly.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. She's really an attractive woman, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying that, but hey, I'm a guy. And she is. What are you going to do? And she has a cute dog, too. This is a story. Is the dog not with us anymore?
Yeah.
Is that why you said it that way? Okay.
Sad.
Steph Davis is on the phone. My goodness, what a story she tells. The book just arrived, by the way, so I'm going to use that as an excuse, because I don't have any excuses anymore. Look, we have here 1 floor of staircase to climb.
Yes.
And sometimes we choose the elevator. No more. I'm going to climb the side of the building or something.
That's right. You're going to be scaling that wall today.
And I just detected a little bit of off-air conversation that she is just as sweet as she is pretty and amazing. Steph, you have inspired and motivated all of us. Good morning, Steph. Steph Davis.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And where are you?
I'm in Moab, Utah. That's where I live.
Okay. I don't know where to start with this because I want to talk about the amazing stuff, but it looks like the book is more about something deeper.
Well, it's like you said, actually. It is kind of half and half. It's about a lot of extreme sports, as you kind of described.
Yeah.
But it's also about the stories behind those things.
Can I ask you a question? I guess I have to ask this one. You're climbing mountains, you learned how to do it with the ropes, the pulleys, and all that, and one day you decide to not take anything. How did that decision come about?
Well, actually, when I first started climbing, I learned with ropes, but within about a year or two that I started climbing, I started climbing sometimes without a rope, and it's another form of climbing. It's one that not everybody wants to do, but it's, you don't always have to climb the hardest thing when you go climbing. So it's, you can go without a rope and climb things that aren't your top difficulty.
Do you think Indians were climbing these mountains? Or do you think that if we could put you... Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if we sent you back in time, they wouldn't be surprised at all. They would say, I can do that.
Well, a lot of the ancient ruins around the areas that I live, Mesa Verde, a lot of the Anasazi ruins, they're really high up on cliff walls, and they have little chips that have been nicked out, and it's not that easy to climb them, and that's how people got home every day.
That's how they got home every day.
Wow.
In other words, it wasn't a feat, it was just part of their daily routine.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. When did you first jump out of an airplane with one of those wingsuits?
I started doing that about a couple months after I learned how to skydive, because when I started skydiving, obviously I saw people who were flying wingsuits in the same airplanes, and I really wanted to do that because it is really the coolest thing. And so I just put all my energy into learning how to do it as soon as possible.
How do you land? Do you put on a parachute at the last minute?
Well, you always have the parachute on the whole time, and then what you do is you fly in the wingsuit, so you can maneuver and dive and kind of like a bird, and then when it's time, when you're getting too close to the ground, you pull the parachute.
Wow. How many is what you do called free climbing? Is that what they call it?
It's kind of confusing, actually. They call it free climbing when you do have a rope, but you're not using the rope to get up the rock, if that makes sense. Like, you're only grabbing the rock to climb, but you do have the rope in case you fall, and that's called free climbing. But the reason it's confusing is they call it free solo climbing when you don't have a rope.
I gotcha. Okay.
Well, what happens if a person is climbing like you climb without any kind of apparatus, and then all of a sudden you're halfway up and a person freezes? Does that happen?
Not usually. I think most people who have free soloed, including myself, have these stories about one moment on a climb when they had that feeling of fear and a little bit wanted to freeze up, and then shook it off and finished the climb, and then really thought about it later. And that's something I actually wrote about in this book, was having that moment on a climb and kind of having to climb through it, and then later thinking, okay, that needs to not happen again.
This is absolutely amazing, but more than the physical the physical prowess is amazing, but it's the emotionalness that you've experienced throughout your life as to having to live, and you've had a lot of hurdles to overcome.
Yeah, well, I think everybody has that time in life where things just don't go the way you expected, and I think everybody has had it, or everybody will have it, and that's part of why I wanted to write the book, because when you're going through that, sometimes you don't really know what to do, and I think it helps a lot to read about other people's stories and just realize that everybody goes through that stuff, everybody will go through it, and there always is going to be another side.
We were watching videos on Friday of you, Steph, and I mentioned the dog earlier, and the dog was in the videos. So what happened?
Yeah.
Robin already kind of hinted that Fletch is no longer with us, right? What happened?
Yeah, that was my dog, Fletcher, and I had her for 12 years, and she lived to be 14, and this is also in the book. It's kind of the story of the end of her life. And she got very old and just slowly died of old age and arthritis, and that was a really intense experience for me. I'd never had a dog before, and that I loved so much, and just that whole experience of like nursing her through her end of life, and asking those questions about, is it time to let her go, and trying to do the best thing for her. So
yeah,
but you would take her with you, and then she would wait for you.
Yeah, she and I went everywhere together.
Yeah, but she would be patient, and she wouldn't run away or anything. She's amazing.
Oh no.
You should write a book from her perspective called "Learning to Flee."
She was a great dog.
All right, now make the connection for us, because we are so excited about talking to you about what you are famous for. But tell me a little bit about. I don't understand. And just remember, the book only just arrived today. I just pulled it out of the envelope, so I don't know much about your story. But it says in my notes that you had your relationship with your husband fell apart, and it started because of the delicate arch.
Yeah, that's kind of I almost call it the prequel to the book, because it's not really what the book is about, but it's where it all began. The story that I wanted to tell. yeah, I was married to my climbing partner, and we did go through kind of a strange, I guess, experience when he climbed this thing called Delicate Arch. And
now,
for some reason, it turned into a big media controversy at that time. This was back in 2000.
And why was that? Why was that controversial?
Well, I guess the right answer is I'm not really sure, and that's why I wrote about it in the book. But it wasn't illegal to climb the arch, but for a while there were a lot of articles coming out that said it was illegal. So that was already strange.
Were they afraid he was going to knock it over or something? I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still a pretty big rock, despite being called Delicate Arch.
Yeah.
So I just think it's one of those things that, to most people who aren't climbers, they don't see rocks in such a personal way, and this one is on the license plate, and it's on billboards, and so maybe people really took it to heart, and I guess the good thing about it was that it was maybe a little misdirected, but it was an expression of people caring about.
Well, I thought maybe it was kind of like, when you hear about Native Americans having some kind of a spirit associated with a rock. Like you hear about this in Hawaii a lot. Like you got to be respectful of the parts of the land that they associate with certain spirits. I didn't know if that applied to the Delicate Rock or not. Delicate Arch.
Oh no, not at all. But yeah, I don't know why.
How did that strain your marriage? Though I don't understand. So the media got upset. He climbed the Delicate Arch, and that was the beginning of the end for your marriage.
Well, again, you should definitely read the book because it's definitely described in the first chapter the whole sequence. But basically, what happened was it turned into a little bit of a hoopla, and then our major sponsors didn't like it at the time and wanted to disassociate, and then that kind of led to a lot of strains on the relationship. But at the same time, with any relationship, when you go through a hard time, that's when it shows what it's made out of. And,
that's right.
The relationship just didn't have it to succeed.
Who takes the photos of you while you're climbing up and jumping out of planes and things?
Yeah,
I mean, how close are they to you? Are they also climbers, but with ropes?
Yeah, usually to get those climbing images, what happens is you have to do a lot of work. People, usually me, have to do the same climb a few times and put the ropes up. And then the photographer has to go up the ropes above, and then the climber has to climb again. And so those photos tend to be a lot of work. With the jumping photos and the wingsuit photos, usually what happens is there are two jumpers at the same time, and they can shoot each other with cameras.
Do you have? I'm guessing you have a lot of people expressing what I tried to express in the intro, where they're wanting to do something. There's some kind of a challenge that they're facing. Maybe another job, maybe moving on in life with out of a relationship or something like that, or who knows what kind. I mean, everybody's got challenges that they are afraid of pushing towards. Your accomplishments and watching you do what you do, I'm guessing I'm not alone in saying to myself, and I'm sure other people to themselves, if she can do that, then I can do this. Right? Are you getting a lot of that?
Well, I think that was one of my hopes in writing this book, was to maybe give that impetus to people, because it does seem like a lot of times in life we don't do things just because we're afraid, and it's just such a strong emotion, and I think it's definitely instinctive to avoid fear, but in the long run that can take away a lot of freedom.
You're jumping from an antenna or like a radio tower in one of these photographs. How high was that? We have towers in this country, by the way. I don't know how many people know this, but in radio we know it. Towers that are literally taller than the World Trade Centers were. Taller than the Sears Tower, for example. I don't know. Is that how high the tower was that you climbed and jumped off of?
That one was 1,400 feet, and that's, like you say, that is not the tallest tower out there.
Wow. 1,400 feet.
Are you able to get up in the morning and then all of a sudden out of the clear blue decide you're going to...
Out of clear blue.
Yeah. and decide that you're going to climb today, or do you have to plan this in advance so you're psyched up for it?
No, I mean, every day I base jump, and almost every day I climb. It's just part of the daily routine, basically.
Now my son was base jumping like a year and a half ago. The guys in his office. Now, I don't know if it's the same as you do, but they jump from the floor to the top of their desks, and then and then he lost his balance and hit his hand, and he broke his hand really bad. But thank God now the surgeon was able to do that. Is that base jumping? Because that's what he told me it was called.
Well, the funny thing is that's usually how I hurt myself, like falling off the steps or something.
Yeah.
That's the dangerous stuff.
So what's the scariest moment that you can tell, or maybe not the scariest, but what comes to mind when somebody asks you that question? The scariest moment that you've gone through.
Scary moment. Well,
doing radio interviews.
Well, I mean, I get scared all the time. It's just a question of, how scary it is.
Oh, really?
Every time you base jump, you're scared. Every time you stand at the edge, you definitely feel this feeling of, if it's not too much, I would just call it intensity, and if it's a lot, I would actually call it being scared.
Really? So when you jump in spite of the fear?
Yeah, usually the whole thing that is interesting about jumping is figuring out how to manage your fear and make it be something that's actually usable instead of something that's going to stop you from doing a good job.
Is your unexpected love a person, or is it a moment?
It's kind of a lot of things. It's definitely jumping. I didn't expect to love skydiving and base jumping as much as I turned out to. And this book is also the story of meeting my second husband, Mario, and he was quite unexpected. And a few other surprises in there too. Some animals that showed up, and so yeah, a lot. I mean, it's all around you. I think that's part of the message of the book is that even when things seem really bad in life and you feel like you're losing things, that's just part of the flow, and that life is actually about change. So sometimes things go away and then other things come.
So what is the feeling actually like from once you get past the fear and you've jumped, and now you're flying down? Is it so focused that you really don't have time to enjoy the view, so to speak, or is it like the most incredible moment, and that's why you keep going back for it?
Well, usually there's a lot of intensity up to the moment you leave the edge, and that is the really significant thing about jumping. It's whether you go out of an airplane or you go off a cliff, whether you have a wingsuit or not, there's this huge emotional barrier to actually leaving the edge. And then as soon as you do, things become a lot more relaxed. I mean, it can definitely be busy. There's still a lot to do correctly and to think about and to plan on, but once you've left the edge, you're sort of in it, and then it's happening. And yeah, you can really experience things.
You mentioned sponsors before. A lot of sports figures will have sponsors who have their name emblazoned on their uniform, their car, whatever it may be. Do you have that kind of offer from sponsors? Is that, like, when I'm looking at the photographs, I don't see any brand names on anything.
Well, on my wingsuit, you'll see some branding, because my main sponsor, Prana, actually bought the logoed wingsuit, and I have a few parachutes that sponsors have put logos on. Okay. So yeah, I do make a living through sponsorship. It's a little different in the outdoor community. I think that maybe the style is to be a little less emblazoned, and so I think the labels are smaller and maybe not quite as obvious from a distance.
Sometimes when people are starting out in something brand new, they pretend to feel like they know everything about whatever it is they are embarking on, and they have an attitude. When you're doing something like this, how do you squash that attitude in the very beginning so they and their partners don't get hurt?
You mean like if I am meeting people, or?
Well, no. Sometimes if you're a if you're an instructor, say like climbing up rocks, and then you've got some people that want to learn how to do it, there's usually always somebody that always knows how to do it before they try it, and they have an attitude that could be dangerous. How do you ground them and make them, start from basic 101 instead of thinking they can do this automatically?
Right. I think with things like climbing and jumping, it is very knowledge based, and I think it's usually pretty obvious from the very beginning that there's a lot to learn.
Uh-huh.
So I guess that isn't something I've run into too much.
Wow. Do you win a lot of stuffed dolls at these things? You know, when you climb the rock wall at the amusement park, and you ring the bell, you win a doll. Do you get a lot of dolls?
No, I've never gotten any.
I mean, if I could do what you could do, I'd be showing off all the time. Don't worry, kids, I can get to the top of that thing. And yeah, have you ever tried the little? You know what I'm talking about? Those rock walls at carnivals.
Yeah, I didn't know there was that. I should maybe go get some stuffed animals for the dogs.
When you were writing this book, did you have a beginning point in your thought process, or did you start somewhere in the middle and branch out from there on each side?
Well, that's a great question, because when I wanted to write the book, I was just so happy about, you know, learning how to jump and just entering that new world and all the places that it brought me. So in my mind, I just thought, wow, I need to write about this because it's just so great. And then when I started to write the book, I realized I had to go back and write about, like I said, what I call the prequel, all the stuff that led up to it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought, oh, I don't want to write about that stuff. That's over now, and it was painful, but you know, I actually had to. And so it was pretty difficult to write, but now looking back, I'm glad I wrote about it, because for me it was, I think, a good process, and like I say, I hope it might help some other people.
Now, what's next? What is there a mountain you still are challenged by? Is it that balloon thing, you know, that goes to the edge of the atmosphere? The guy who jumped, and remember that guy who jumped and he passed out on the way down, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was an amazing thing.
Is that something that you would like to do, or you think you're going to try, or?
Well, actually, my husband Mario and I have a new business in Moab that we started. It's called Moab Base Adventures, and it's kind of a new frontier, just rather bringing it to other people, because we're doing tandem base jumps from cliffs. And
wow.
This is the first time anyone's ever done this. So it's definitely a pioneering experience, but it's really amazing because we're able to share this experience with people who've never jumped before.
Tandem base jumps. Holy mackerel.
Wow. Yeah.
Could you climb the side of
amazing.
Could you climb the side of a building, or is a building too flat?
It really depends on the building. Like, if it's just a plain brick wall with nothing, then yeah, there wouldn't be much to grab and stand on. But you know, those more elaborate buildings, or buildings that have cracks in them or a lot of features, that would be a lot easier to climb.
The one that we watched a video of, I guess it's on your website, it's a very, very flat-looking rock. It didn't look like there was anything on that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, sometimes it's just the angle.
Oh, wow. Look at this one right here. This is let's see, I'm looking at the picture in the book. I guess it's Miles of Earl?
Uh-huh.
Or maybe it's the Moab. I'm trying to figure which picture is getting which credit. Freeing Concepcion. Is that how you say it? There's a little fucking...
Oh, yeah, Concepcion.
Yeah. What is that? That looks like it's very flat.
Well, that is a crack, and so what you have, and we have a lot of this in Moab, which is one reason I live here, because it's the kind of climbing I like the best.
So you look for that crack. Walls, that crack is...
And then there's,
that's how you do it, right?
It's a crack that splits it, yeah, and so you just put your fingers and your feet in the crack.
Just do it. It makes it seem easy.
Do you have to register with, like, the Park Service or something when you do this, so they know, you know, in case you don't come by their station, you know, in X number of hours to come out and look for you, or is this just something you just go out and do?
Yeah, climbing and base jumping, they're very independent, and so, you know, you have to take a lot of personal responsibility as far as setting up your own system of friends that you check in with or that you go with, and a lot of times having your own rescue options. For example, base jumpers usually carry a little GPS emergency locator device, so that if you're stuck somewhere hurt where phones don't work, you can push the signal and have a GPS call for help.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I wonder what that British lady says as you're going, as you're falling. Turn left, turn left, turn left. turn left.
Yeah, because for vehicles, they're annoying.
You're jumping out of an airplane, and that thing's trying to tell you, you're going the wrong. Turn around.
No, these are just a GPS emergency device. So the only thing that it does is that if you're really in a bind somewhere, you push the emergency button, and it sends a signal with your GPS coordinates to the rescue.
See, I don't know much about GPS, so I don't even know the simple from the. All right, the book is called Learning to Fly. Look Steph Davis up on the internet. You're going to be amazed with what she can do, what she has done. The book does touch on her personal life as well. I just hopefully everybody got that part of this. I have a copy of the book. It's a wonderful book. I will give away the copy I have. So call me if you want this one. The rest of us have to go buy it. It's called Learning to Fly. Look for Steph Davis. Steph, how do we get the book?
You can get it from Simon & Schuster. You can get it from Amazon. You can get it from Barnes & Noble. If you come to my website at highinfatuation.com, there's a link to buy it.
Okay. If I went to the top of one of these mountains with you, and after you jump, I just kind of throw a paper airplane with my name written on it. Would I be able to take credit? You know, my name went to the bottom.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Steph, thank you for being on the air with us and getting up early to do this. And so you going climbing today somewhere?
Well, it's really windy today, so it doesn't look like a good day
you better
to do
not.
anything.
Now, tomorrow you're signing books in your home area, right?
In Moab, Utah, yes.
Okay. It looks like you're doing some book signings. Well, if you're ever in our area doing book signings, let us know. We'd love to have you in the studio. I got a wall right here about 10 feet high.
That's right.
If you want to give it a shot.
Okay.
Thank you for being with us, Steph, and you have motivated all of us with your accomplishments.
Well, thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, Steph. We'll take a break and be right back.
In specialty crop news from the Southeast AgNet, well, in our previous report, we discussed the fresh new efforts of the new Fresh from Florida campaign. As Susan Nardizzi now gives us more details of the campaign that is designed to raise awareness of locally grown Fresh from Florida products while focusing on convenient and nutritious recipes through 30 and 60-second television spots.